We have a trade to announce. The lily pad has left the pond. You know, as far as late October trades go, this is a big one. The Toronto Maple Leafs trade Timothy Liljegren to the San Jose Sharks for 2 picks and a player. The Leafs get a 2025 third rounder, a 2026 sixth rounder, and defenseman Matt Benning. So let's go over why this trade happened right now, because it's more complicated than, well, Liljegren wasn't playing and they wanted to dump him. Honestly, I think we should go back to like where the Liljegren story began. Heading into the 2017 NHL draft, Timothy Liljegren was a highly coveted prospect. Like, people were talking about this guy going top 5. A spout of an illness that year, I believe it was mono, plummeted his draft stock. The Toronto Maple Leafs, who were used to having very high picks leading into that draft, I mean, for goodness sake, the year before they picked 1st overall with Austin Matthews, it was 4th the year before with Mitch Marner, and 8th the year before that with William Nylander. The 17th overall pick wasn't going to get Leafs fans hot and bothered, but when all of a sudden, this guy who was supposed to potentially go top 5 drops to 15 and he's still there, and 16 and he's still there, and oh my goodness, 17, he's still there! The Leafs, who always need a defenseman. The Leafs, who always need a defenseman who can shoot right, and he's Swedish and that matters. Dude, this is 2017. The Ottawa Senators had just gone on their Superman run to within a goal of the Stanley Cup final in 2017, and everyone, every scouting department and every management group in the National Hockey League had visions of Erik Karlsson dancing in their head. I mean, not just for Liljegren because he's right-handed and Swedish, but for basically any defenseman, everyone was like, we can get that. We need that. So the Leafs were already punching above their weight in their rebuild because they had made the playoffs immediately with Austin Matthews, and they got a guy who everyone thought was going to go top 5 or even top 10 at 17. People were very excited about the Liljegren pick. He immediately comes to North America and he makes an immediate impact. Despite injuries, he adds a goal and 17 points in 44 games with the Toronto Marlies, but in the playoffs, he plays 20 games in the Calder Cup playoffs en route to a Calder Cup victory. Does he take a step forward the next year? Nah. 43 games, very similar offensive stats. He was a minus player, but like the team wasn't as strong. Harder to be stronger than the champions. And I think this is relevant to Liljegren's journey, and it's relevant to so many players who were drafted 2017, 18, 19, 2020. COVID. It screwed with a lot of players' progression, and 2019-20, that season that got cut short, that's when he made his NHL debut. He played 11 games in the NHL with the Leafs, just 1 assist, and not that great. But in the AHL, you could absolutely see the makings of a potential offensive defenseman, just a killer. 40 games, he had 5 goals, 25 assists, 30 points in 40 games. The next season is the godforsaken Canadian division, and he plays 21 games in the minors. I forgot the Marlies even played. The Newfoundland Growlers did not. Just 2 games in the NHL. That Leaf team was very good until they weren't. It wasn't until the 2021-22 season that he finally made the full-time jump to the NHL, playing over 60 games. Already, even though he's already in the NHL, he finally made the NHL, there's got to be some impatience there. This guy was drafted 2017. He was a first-round pick. 61 games played, but again, the makings are there. 5 goals, 23 points. He wasn't getting into every game, but he was playing in the games he did play. He looked okay. Defensive deficiencies? Yes, but the makings are there. They're still there, and we'll get to that. Did he play in the playoffs? Yes. How many games did he play? 2. Because, and we yelled and screamed about this at the time, Sheldon Keefe played Justin Holl ahead of Liljegren. And Justin Holl is like a weirdly relevant figure when it comes to the story of Timothy Liljegren in Toronto. He had one job, and that was to push Holl out of the way. He couldn't do it. First full year. Okay, what does he do the next time? 67 games played. Okay, 6 goals, new career high. We like that. 18 points, not quite the career high. The makings are there. 2023 playoffs. Remember, the Leafs beat the Lightning in 6 games and then played another 5 against the Panthers. That's 11 games. Liljegren played 6. And last season, again, 55 games played, tied his career high with 23 points. But when the playoffs came around, 7-game series against Boston, he played 6 games. And you could chalk it up to Sheldon Keefe doesn't like him. Sheldon Keefe never liked him. Sheldon Keefe would have rather had Justin Holl in the lineup than Timothy Liljegren. But guess what? New coach. Craig Berube's here. You have a chance for a fresh start. From the moment camp began, he was a dog's breakfast. This coming off of a 2-year contract extension that he signed in the summer, $3 million per year. Again, this is a guy who had still been healthy scratched at least a few times in every NHL season he'd ever played in. $3 million multi-year. But it's okay, because even though the Leafs signed Jani Hakanpää is going to be injured and he's going to be out for a while. Liljegren's going to have a chance to impress this coach. And yeah, they signed Chris Tanev, but that OEL signing, that guy shoots left. McCabe can play the right, but he shoots left. Liljegren's going to play in the top 4. And after training camp and preseason, a new head coach in Craig Berube said, "You're not even better than Connor Timmins," who myself and a lot of Leaf Nation thought was already well out the door. In 10 games, he has played 1 out of those. He has played as many games this season as Philippe Myers, both guys who play on the third pair and shoot right. Timothy Liljegren has had his chance with several different groups of Toronto Maple Leafs teams. He has had his chance with 2 coaches and 2 general managers. It's not gonna work here. It's time to trade him. And it's especially time to trade him because the Leafs, up against the cap, they actually have a weird situation that they haven't really had before. At least not in recent memory. They have 3 guys coming out of training camp, 3 guys who could start on this team. Were probably penciled into the opening night roster that were injured long-term. Calle Jarnkrok, like, certainly in the opening night roster. Connor Dewar, a little bit more question there, but they traded a 4th-round pick for him at last year's trade deadline. And Jani Hakanpää, the Leafs appeared to move the sun and the moon to get this guy, even though he appeared to only have 1 good knee. Guess what? Right-handed defenseman. Uh-oh. Depending on who comes off LTIR when, Connor Dewar, I think his new deal is $1.18 million. Jarnkrok is 2.1. Hakanpää is 1.47. It's a really weird cap hit. If these guys are going to be coming off LTIR soon, you got to move money out. And Liljegren makes $3 million, and he's played 10% of the games so far, 10% of the way through the season, or more than that. Ignore the math. He had to go. So he goes to the San Jose Sharks for a 3rd, a 6th, and a defenseman. I am not going to lie. Beginning of this week, not in a million years did I, well, maybe in a million years. It's a 3rd-round pick, so maybe it's not that mind-blowing, but I would have never landed on the Leafs get 2 picks for Liljegren, and one of them is the 3rd. This is a dude who makes $3 million this season and next, and hasn't cracked the Leafs roster. Then something happened that sort of made me and a lot of people change their mind. Yesterday, Utah, who a lot of people thought Liljegren might be going to because they have a lot of injuries on the back end right now, Utah traded a 3rd-round pick to the Detroit Red Wings for Olli Maatta. Olli Maatta, who's 30 and making $3 million against the cap for just this season, but hasn't even played in every Red Wings game this season. And a lot of us went, holy crap, if that guy's worth a 3rd-round pick, I think Liljegren should maybe be worth more. Listen, Olli Maatta's had a good career by most standards. He's played almost 700 regular season games, 85 Stanley Cup playoff games. He won a cup. He was 5th in Calder voting in 2012. Forget all that. A lot of that was a long time ago. Nearly 700 games played. But with Maatta at 30 years old and Liljegren at 25, Liljegren is at least as valuable as Olli Maatta. And, oh, guess what? He shoots right. So he comes at a premium. Now, you might be saying to yourself, whoa, a 3rd-round pick from the San Jose Sharks? They're not looking very good. That's going to basically be a 2nd-rounder. Not working that way. From the Leafs news release on the trade, San Jose currently holds 3rd-round selections previously held by Edmonton and Colorado, and Toronto will receive the earlier selection as part of this trade. Colorado has struggled a bit. Doubt that lasts. Edmonton has struggled a bit. Doubt that lasts. These will probably be at least in the middle of the 3rd round, if not pretty late. Whatever, still a 3rd. You can get guys in the 3rd. Even better, probably more relative to the Leafs, a 3rd-rounder can get you something pretty decent at the trade deadline. Or, if it's 2021, Dave Rittich. What can a third round pick get you? Well, for the New Jersey Devils, they acquired Jake Allen from the Montreal Canadiens for a conditional second round pick that could turn into a third. Last year, the Capitals got Evgeny Kuznetsov for a third straight up. The Rangers got Chad Ruhwedel for a fourth. Or how about this? The Jets got Tyler Toffoli for a second and a third. So you're halfway there if you want to really split hairs. The Bruins got Andrew Peeke, who's a depth defenseman and was for them last year and still is this year, for Zboril, who's like a long shot prospect who they weren't going to use, and a third. The Jets got defenseman Colin Miller for a fourth. Hell, the Leafs got Connor Dewar for a fourth. The Leafs got Joel Edmondson for a third and a fifth. The Avalanche got Brandon Duhaime for a third. The Panthers won a cup with Vladimir Tarasenko, who they got for a third and a fourth. Carolina got Ilya Lyubushkin for a third. So listen, are most of those trades blockbusters? No. But you could put a third rounder into a blockbuster, or you could just use it to get a depth guy who's just going to help you out and make your roster a little bit better. The Leafs need draft capital, and they got 2 picks in this one. You know what that's better than? A $3 million defenseman you're not using. Then there's Matt Benning in this equation. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know where he fits in. When I saw the trade, I was like, oh, Matt Benning, he shoots left, doesn't he? No, he shoots right, which doesn't make that much sense. It's weird. This is the first time in a long time you're looking at the Leafs and going, they don't really need a righty. Tanev's a righty. OEL can play the right side. McCabe can play the right side. Hakanpää is obviously a righty. He hasn't played yet. Philippe Myers, Connor Timmins. The other thing, Benning has played games with the San Jose Sharks this season, and that's great. But last season, he only played 14. And the reason for that is he got his hip work done. Now, if he stays in Toronto, this could be a decent landing spot for Benning, whether he plays on the Leafs or the Marlies, because he gets to work with the Leafs medical staff, which is very good and expensive. There's no salary cap on it. But in terms of whether or not this guy will actually play games with the team, at $1.25 million against the cap, he could just get buried. Only other option I could possibly see is Myers gets sent down. I think he's already cleared waivers, so that should be okay. Myers gets sent down and they keep Benning as an extra. I'm not sure where he fits into this situation, and until we figure out where he fits into the situation, I'm going to assume he was put into the trade just to make the money work. Best case scenario, he's an upgrade on like Connor Timmins and like maybe right side depth, but as like the 7th, 8th, possibly even 9th option. I won't get too caught up in that. San Jose, what can you expect in Liljegren? He can move the puck. He can do it really well. There is such a scenario at 25 years old where Liljegren plays in San Jose's top 4 and puts up a bunch of points. And he's on the power play, and he's scoring goals. He can shoot. He can shoot decently. He can pass decently. He has good offensive vision. For a guy who has brutal defensive deficiencies, he can kill penalties. He can be very aloof with the puck, and sometimes his decision-making is... it's not even like cute mad scientists. It's more WTF are you doing? And for any of you who are looking at him and going, oh, he's over 6 feet tall, he's over 200 pounds, he doesn't use an inch or a pound of it. I am not trying to pick on a guy. Wow. If he showed an ounce of physicality or aggression, I think he might still be on this team. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want a right-handed shot with size and vision and a little bit of snarl? All 32 teams in the NHL need that player, which means he's not that player. Is it possible that in San Jose he turns into that player? Yeah, but let it be known, if this video is a time capsule for when he wins the Norris in a few years, he was thoroughly not that here in Toronto. 2 coaches, 2 GMs, lots of different supporting cast, lots of different D partners. He was not that. There was one moment in the Bruins series this past spring where he threw a hit, and it was a decent one. And I went, oh my gosh, I've never seen Liljegren do that in my entire life. And before the thought was even spoken in my head, the Bruins double teamed him and hit him back 3 times as hard. And I think that might have been the last body check I ever saw him throw. But would I be surprised at 25 years old with a huge opportunity in San Jose? This is a great landing spot for Timothy Liljegren. Would I be surprised if he found his game in California? Not in the slightest. It would be very leafy, let's be honest. So, what do you think of the Liljegren trade? Leave a comment in the comment box down below, but for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Brand new Steve Dangle podcast is up. I got a book that's out, and I hope you really like it. I'm back on Cameo. I'm on all sorts of stuff where I yell about hockey. This is what I just did.